Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Humanitarian Horizons. I am Christina DiArcangelo, your hostess. And today we need to have a difficult and important conversation. It's with a very heavy heart that I address the recent and tragic death of Charlie Kirk. On September 10th, 2025, Kirk, a well-known conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA, was shot and killed while speaking at a Utah Valley University. This is more than just breaking news. It's a moment that forces us to reflect on the state of political discourse in our country, on how we treat speech, especially controversial speech, and on what it means to protect the rights and safety of those that speak out. I'm one of those people that speaks out as well. I have a podcast, as you all know, you all follow me, and I talk about humanitarian issues. Some of the things I talk about are political. So this is something that hits very home for me, very, very close to home. This episode will not praise or condemn, but to examine, to learn, and to mourn with purpose. So what happened? Let's start out with what we know. Charlie Kirk was speaking at an event in Utah Valley University as part of his American Comeback Tour. The event, a public debate style, drew about 3,000 people. While engaging with students and discussing mass shootings, among other and political cultural issues, he was shot in the neck by a gunman positioned on a roof from a nearby building. He was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, he did not survive. Authorities later identified a man, a 22-year-old, named Tyler Robinson, who was arrested. The investigation is still ongoing. Motive is not fully established yet at this point. There are a lot of different scenarios that are coming across the news, but nothing has really been said. And as far as of today, Tyler Robinson is not cooperating with the officials as they're asking questions. Many are calling this a political assassination, given that it occurred in the context of an event where Kirk's political views were central. The tragedy isn't isolated. Experts have noticed that this is a part of the disturbing trend, the increasing frequency of political violence, especially when rhetoric becomes extreme or demonizing. We see when political differences are framed as existential threats, when speech is dehumanizing, when mistrust is weaponized, it creates a climate in which violence becomes more thinkable, even to those who do not commit violence themselves, who normalize hostility. So one question we must ask: how has our culture, our political environment, our media, ourselves contributed to the decline? Because free speech isn't free of consequences, not in this culture and not in safety. You know, in my podcast, I talk about free speech daily. I believe in its power. I believe that everyone's voice, yes, even voices we strongly disagree with, must have a place. The ability to express your opinion, challenge ideas, question power, to be heard, those are fundamental in a free society. But what does free speech mean when an individual is literally silenced by violence? What does it mean for all of us, for our future conversations, for our safety? Let me draw out some tensions. Speech versus safety. There is tension when speech provokes not only a disagreement, but anger so intense that it can potentially lead to violence. How do we protect speakers? How do we protect listeners? What responsibility do organizations of public events have for security? Speech versus accountability. Free speech includes the right to criticize, to mock, to disagree, but it does not immunize one from criticism or social consequence. When people celebrate someone's death, for example, that raises, in my opinion, serious ethical and social questions. Also, let's just call it what it is. What about the religious consequences of cheering that someone died? Do you think that that's what God would want? I highly doubt it. This also impacts what people will be saying in the future. Limits of free speech in practice. There are legal limits, libel, incitements, and threats, and there are social or societal limits, norms, professional consequences, and community reaction. We both need to coexist. Legal protections and strong cultural norms that discourage dehumanizing language or rhetoric that frames others as enemies. In the case of Charlie Kirk and this event, it forces us to ask, was there enough emphasis on civil discourse? Was the rhetoric leading up to this shooting doing more than wound than to build? And where do we draw the line between the robust disagreement, which is necessary, and the language that erodes the possibility of peace? What have people done, said, or proposed in the aftermath? Kirk's widow, Erica, has publicly committed that Turning Point USA events will continue. She emphasized that the movement built won't die. Officials from Utah's governor to national political leaders have condemned the shooting as political violence and as a dark day for our nation. There have been calls for cooling the political rhetoric, for better security at public events, for tech platforms and media to consider how this amplification of certain kinds of speech may contribute to a hostile environment. At the same time, there's debate. What should be the response to those who celebrated this tragedy online? Should they be fired, held to an account? Where do legal rights end and social or professional accountability begin? I want to end with reflections and some calls to action, because while this is tragic, it is also a moment when we can decide not to let fear win, not to let the breakdown of discourse become the new normal. Recommit to civil discourse. Disagreement is inevitable. It's even healthy, but let's commit to disagreeing without dehumanizing, without targeting, without violence, without the intent to kill, because that's what happened here. There was intent, in my opinion, and Charlie Kirk was killed. He was assassinated. To argue without demonizing, to listen, even when we do not want to. And notice I said to argue without demonizing. Sorry, I can't even talk. I said it twice, now 3 times, because it's very important to me. Support protection for free speech, including for voices we don't like. That includes ensuring public safety at events, protection for the speakers, and legal frameworks that allow people to express themselves free without violence. Judge our own rhetoric. Be mindful of what we say, how we say it, and how we respond on social media and podcasts and public settings. All of it matters. Our culture of outrage, of us versus them, has real consequences. If it contributes to a climate where violence seems acceptable, it is unacceptable. Hold platforms and media accountable. Algorithms, sensationalism, clickbait, they can all turn stories into fuel. Clips of Charlie Kirk speaking in the past to make it seem like he was a certain way when you don't hear the entire clip, which then causes people to doubt what they originally thought about the victim here. This is craziness. The way speech is amplified matters. Also, the way speech is moderated, if, when, and how, is also important. Protect both free speech and accountability. Free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, legal, social, or ethical. But we need to ensure consequences aren't used to suppress minority voices or dissent. Charlie Kirk's death is a tragedy in many, many dimensions. For his family, he left a wife and 2 small children behind, his community, the political world, and our civil or civic life. It's a stark illumination of how vulnerable we are when speech ceases to be a tool for exchange and becomes a flashpoint for violence. As we move forward, I invite you, our listeners, to reflect, what is the speech you engage in every day? Are you contributing to the division or understanding? Are you raising your voice in ways that bring people apart? Or are you trying to bring people together? How do you want to remember someone like Charlie Kirk? Not necessarily for his politics, but what his death says about us, about our country, and about how we choose our common life. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this episode worthwhile, I encourage you to share it. Reach out to those who you disagree with, not to argue, but to understand. Because if we lose the ability to talk, to listen, to disagree without violence, we lose something essential. Until next time, keep the faith with humanity, keep the faith with free speech, and may we strive for a world where tragedies like this stop happening and bold, courageous speech remains protected, respected, and safe. I am Christina DiArcangelo, your host of Humanitarian Horizons. Thank you.